Robin Rain, City of Tucson.
Andy Bemis, City of Tucson.
Megan Lasham with Town of Marana.
Carolyn Lori with PAG.
At UDOT.
Hey, welcome, everybody. Oh, sorry. We're all line.
Sorry, I was waiting.
Are you just going down the line or no? Where's Jeff? Where are they at? Andrea, are you there? You're the Cruz?
Hi, good morning. Andrea De La Cruz with the Town of Marana.
Dan Grossman? Dan, you there?
What is today? Not the 25th yet.
Everybody's muted.
Okay.
But John Garcia.
Morning. John
Thomas Garcia, Town Rita.
We're good on just to keep moving.
Yeah, when people come in, it's
Okay.
bumps.
So we got Andrea, we got. Keep moving, Andrea. Dan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Ariel Fry?
Hello.
You there?
Oh,
Let me make sure, Ariel, you there?
Hi, I'm Natalie Shep, Pima County Department of Environmental Quality. I can't hear all that well, so maybe that's why people aren't answering.
Thank you. Okay, we've got David.
David Zinda, PAG RTA.
And then there was Nat, and they've got Natalie, Thomas, John. David Zinda?
You just have them.
Yeah, can this take it both?
Is Patricia Pablo?
Good morning, Patricia Pablo with the Donna Autumn Nation.
Mark Novak?
Good morning, Mark Novak with the University of Arizona.
Okay. Barbara Johnson? Might be.
The come doesn't bust for you.
Oh, yeah, we have another screen that we can't see. Did we, if we missed anyone, can you introduce yourself?
Davida Mueller with Suntran.
Anybody else? You're welcome. Right, moving on to item number 2, in-kind reporting. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regional planning efforts are enhanced by recording time donated by attendees, volunteers, and participants. PAG collects data on the time dedicated to meetings and activities to apply for use as matching funds for grants and federal dollars. If you are the federal dollars, please let us know. Time spent in preparation for this meeting will be estimated by PAG staff who are knowledgeable of the agenda and meeting materials. At the conclusion of this meeting, the session report will automatically calculate your time spent in this meeting. Time spent working on PAG RTA initiatives, programs, and special projects may also be eligible for consideration for matching funds.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 3, approval of the December 20th, 2023 meeting summary. This is an action item. Everybody get a chance to review it?
So moved.
The motion, there's a second? And we have a second. Any questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting summary has been approved. Okay, moving on to item number 4, election of the 2024 TPC chair and vice chair.
Mr. Chair, each year following the election at the regional council for their officers, the TPC committee chair and vice chair are elected among the eligible jurisdictional transportation representatives to serve as a chair or vice chair for a one-year term for this committee. The only restrictions to who can serve as chair and vice chair of TPC are they can't be chair and vice chair of regional council or representing the same jurisdiction. So for this committee, that means the county and ADOT cannot serve as chair or vice chair. That being said, we're open to nominations.
All right. Nominees, anybody? Anybody want to nominate somebody? Catherine, you want to nominate him?
Well, since I can't serve, should I nominate somebody else?
Absolutely.
I mean, I know Sam is not here today, but I believe he's willing to serve for another year and I would, that he do so.
Sam, yes. Anybody else? Hearing none, okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Sam has it, he's the chair for next year. How about vice chair? Want to jump in the ring? Anybody else? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Do you say, are we moving that you be the vice chair another year? That.
All right, thank you. All right. We got it. Aye, everybody right?
I.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, guys. Yes, so
Sam will be the chair and.
I'm the chair, well, I'll be the vice chair for another year. All right, great, thank you. All right, see, moving on to item number 5. Review of transportation art by youth, the TABI program application for FY 2024, and that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In 1995, PAG initiated a program designed to incorporate public art into transportation projects by providing summer employment for at-risk youth in the region. The program aims to enhance the transportation experience, improve the quality of life within the community, and strengthen community identity while providing education and other opportunities for. The call for projects for this year was released on October 4th. And through that process, we have received 3 applications, which we will be reviewing today. Regional HERF 12-6 funds are allocated to the program at a maximum level as programmed in the active tip, which equals $25,000 per year for the whole program. Approval authority for the Transportation Art by Youth program has been delegated by the PAG Regional Council to PAG's Transportation Planning Committee and may be subject to conditions. Upon TPC approval and inclusion of the project in the appropriate funding contracts or contract amendments, a notice to proceed will be issued by the sponsoring jurisdiction. The responsibilities for running the TABI summer program lie with the HERF eligible jurisdiction that's requesting the TABI grant funding. This includes following the agreement of public art funding as approved by Regional Council on December 5th, 2019, and the TABI policies and procedures as released on October 4th, 2024. These policies establish the framework by which transportation art by youth projects may be submitted for review, evaluation, and potential funding. The guidelines and procedures also apply to new projects proposed for initial funding, projects that have been previously approved, and projects that have received funding in the past but have not been completed. This morning, the TPC has review authority over 3 projects. The first project will be presented by Mr. John Garcia of the town of Sarita. John, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Good morning, thank you. Crystal's here and she will be able to help you through the presentation process. When you're ready to proceed to the next slide, please ask her.
Okay, thank you. She sent an email saying that I could potentially control it with these arrows, and I see the arrows, so I'm going to try it. And if I can't, then I'll say next slide.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Hi, committee, Town of Sarita. This is our application for TABI for 2024. And I clicked good. Basically, what we'd like to do is create one set of a bench and can at the new Pima Mine Road multi-use path that just is pretty much completed. In addition, we'd like to do 2 traffic signal cabinets. We've done 2 traffic signal cabinets on the northmost intersection and the southmost intersection with traffic signals in 2022. For this year, we'd like to do the eastmost intersection and the southmost intersection of town boundaries, and both of these happen to be along Cerrito Road. This is just a general step-by-step of what it takes to do the project. These are the locations. You can see the intersections. I don't know if you see my arrow mouse going along, but those are the intersections where the signals are, and this is where the path is currently looking like on Pima Mine, and the location would be approximately midway. It can't go further. The path jets closer to the fence, so there's no space enough for the bench and the pad to go to. So it's roughly midway, but not exactly. These are just examples of what the benches could look like in our previous 2 traffic signals. Any questions?
Question for me? Mr. Garcia, how many benches are you guys proposing?
Just 1 bench, 1 canvas this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just one point of clarification, the application that you received in your packet contained multiple locations. One of those items has been removed as the town of Cerrito was working with ADOT on a functional class clarification for one of the roadways. And that request wasn't able to be completed by the time of this.
If I could, the gist of that is the functional class can't be done because the actual road isn't in the system to functional class, and it won't be added to their system until August or April. August or July. So we can't make the deadline for now, so it was taken out.
Thank you, John. And my understanding is the request this year is just for 1 year, which would equal $25,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, this is an action item. Do you want to wait till the very end, or do you want to go one by one? Yeah,
As there's 3 applicants, it's really up to your pleasure if you'd like to do one.
you guys just want to do one at a time and then make the motion, and then, or you guys want to wait till the very end? What's the pleasure of you?
We can wait till the end.
Wait till the end? Okay, thank you. We'll wait till the end. Thank you, Garcia. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next presentation will be completed by Ms. Andrea de la Cruz for the town of Marana. Andrea, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, and I see the error, so I'll go ahead and move it along.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to present before you today. My name is Andrea de la Cruz. I am the assistant to the town manager for the town of Marana. And before getting started with Marana's TABI project proposal for 2024, I just want to share how much our town council and community really values the TABI program. It has been a few years since we applied for a TABI project, but we're excited to pursue another TABI project for this year. So just to get started, let's see. There we go. To get started, I'd like to introduce our proposed project timeline for the TABI project. At this time, we don't have an artist on board, but the RFP will be closing soon, and we hope to have the artist and the youth in mid-March of 2024. Once we have the selected artist on board, we will begin the design phase of the art, and the artist will work with staff. The Public Art Review Committee and final concepts will be presented to Town Council in April, May for final feedback and approval. We're currently looking at a June, July 2024 for the fabrication of the art with the students, with the installation and completion scheduled for August of 2024. So Marana's proposed project will be located near Marana Regional Airport. This is north of West Aber Valley Road and north Sendario Road intersection. So this location is adjacent to an urban minor arterial classification. The town of Marana has several public art projects throughout the community. However, this particular area of the community currently does not have any art near it. So, this art project will be the first of its kind and will help beautify the area. We do believe this is a perfect location to showcase art, as the area is active with traffic coming from throughout, from Saguaro National Park visitors, airport visitors, cyclists, and most importantly, this is also the route several Marana High school students take on their daily commute to school. This next slide does provide a better view of where we plan to locate the art. So the yellow X illustrates where the art will be placed. So the vision of the art is a metal sculpture that will serve as a community monument for visitors, residents, motorists traveling along Aber Valley Road. Since this art will be located near the airport, we would like the art to be aviation themed and capture the importance of aviation in the community. The artwork will be located in the town's right-of-way. Design of the art is still pending, but it may consist of one large metal sculpture or multiple smaller sculptures, and that will be determined once we have an artist on board. And the town will be partnering with MUSD's welding program. We have partnered with the welding program for the past 2 TABI projects that we participated in. They've been great to work with. So we've been in communication with MUSD's welding program, and they're looking forward to getting this project started. We'll have approximately 3 Marana High School students and 2 welding instructors participate in the project. This next slide illustrates some of the great art pieces that we currently have in the community. So our vision for this project is something similar to these art projects. However, again, for it to be aviation themed. Both of the photos, the outer photos, are actually past TABI projects. So the deer is from 2017, and the horse and the rider are from TABI 2019 project. So this is just a budget breakdown. The town is requesting a total of $75,000 for this project, and depending on the final design, allocation for some of the items may change, but we are aware that the student stipend will remain at 20% of the project total. This does conclude my presentation for today. Thank you for your consideration and happy to answer any questions.
Question? Are you guys gonna have light on this artwork, or is it like solar lights?
Yes, we are hoping to include some type of light.
There's no other question from Mr. La Cruz. Thank you. Present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item on our agenda is the 2024 City of Tucson TABI application. We have, I believe we have Ms. Gabriela Morales with us in person. Good morning.
And do you have a, I saw you have a clicker. Good morning, my name is Gabriela Barrias Longoria. I'm a project manager at the City of Tucson Department of Transportation and Mobility. The public art program is one of the programs that I manage, and my colleague from the Arts Foundation, Ariel Fry, is also joining hybrid. So she'll be available at the end to answer any questions related to the committee and the public art process. Yes. Is this it? Okay, thanks. Here's our project schedule. As you can see, it starts in March with the artist and youth selection. We were waiting for the full approval from the TPC before issuing the call to artists, but it's all ready to go. And we've been forming the committee as well that will be in charge of the artist selection and providing an advisory role for the design. So that would all conclude by the end of April, with the design starting in early May, with the beginning with the artists, waiting for the youth to finish their last semester of school before summer break. Then as soon as that happens, we would start with the entire group with the youth artists working offsite, and the design would really kick off in June in terms of starting with the painting, as well as, and then the construction would be in June and July, installation in late July, and the completion by the end of July. Here's the budget breakdown. So the artist teaching stipend is $25,000. Youth stipend exceeds the 20% minimum, is at 28% for $21,000. We have $12,500 for material supplies, $3,000 for installation, $6,000 for other operating costs, and $7,500 for the Arts Foundation for their administrative role. And that totals is the maximum $75,000. The potential benefits we outlined in the application were youth employment, which is the most obvious, under the guidance of a professional artist. Also, we have seen in the prior TABI projects that really fosters a sense of connection for the youth, purpose, and collaboration to meet and interact with new peers from other schools. Also, the beautification of the area. This is a giant dirt median on Escalante Road near Santa Rita High School and the entrance of Lower Lincoln Park. It really could use some beautification. This has been a dream of the Ward 4 office in anticipation of the grand opening of their new Lower Lincoln Dog Park. And it also will provide safety along the corridor. This is one of the primary goals, by adding visual friction and delineating space for cars. Here's the exhibit, the first exhibit from the application that shows this is an urban minor arterial. And it shows also the general area of the median, as well as the dog park. The artwork was inspired by Jessica Gonzalez's piece in Sahuarita, actually, titled Woven Bonds We've Grown Upon. And she was really creative in creating this interactive puzzle mural, as she calls it, with recycled metal signs, and as creating like kind of this 3D effect there. So we were really inspired by that and thought that that could be the perfect canvas, especially given the conditions of the street and some of the parameters we have to work with. So instead of that beautiful imagery she has, it would be of dogs as a placemaking strategy. This is the vision of the Ward 4 office. And we have another image of a mural similar about a dog park on the East Coast. So just to give you an idea of what some of the imagery could look like. And the purpose is really to as a wayfinding strategy, to call people to the new park, as it's kind of tucked away. You may have noticed in the map. The locations, there's two medians. There's a large one, median 1, and then the smaller one, median 2, which is closest to the dog park entrance. So the mural panels will be installed diagonally. We've determined that they will be double-sided. It's easy to paint both sides, as the Arts Foundation found out from observing with the Jessica Gonzalez's mural. And that way they're visible to both directions of travel, which is we really wanted to do that. And it is in the City of Tucson right of way. We would make sure to place it outside of the 16-foot clear zone. So our traffic engineers already went out on site as we were just putting together the application to make sure that this adheres to our policies and making sure that we're considering safety and visibility, of course. Here is just another aerial view showing kind of the positioning of the signs, if you will. We're not sure about the quantity. That will depend on the budget and the artist, but it will not, this would be the maximum number, and the spacing aligns with the buffers as well. Okay, what size is the installation? So just to give you a frame of reference, have a stop sign for scale, which is 7 feet from the ground. This would be no higher than 5 feet because of our public art guidelines. And once you exceed 5 feet, you need a structural engineering plan. So we want to keep the costs down and the complexity of the project, something that is manageable to be done over the summer. So 5 feet max. We would make sure that on the base there of her signs, you see there's a little bit of blank space so the signs don't go all the way down. So that would be to allow water to run through. We already had our stormwater engineer look at this, and she thought had no issues. And then in that space, we would also be able to place reflective tape for added visibility at night. And the maximum width would be 18 feet. And that's just given the width and the dimensions of the existing medians. But it could be smaller. So that's really going to be guided by the artist process. How will the project be protected from damage? So as I mentioned, we've already done traffic engineering analysis, including the site distance triangle and looking at what is the clear zone in this particular median. So it's 16 feet. And that will also mitigate visibility issues associated with turning movements, according to a traffic engineer. They will be installed by attaching them to U-channel steel posts or breakaway devices in the event of a vehicular crash. And as I mentioned, that will also add retroreflective materials to the posts and an anti-graffiti coating, as we do to all of our public art. And then this is the last slide, can this be considered a sign? I saw that as part of the TABI program, signs are an option, but we are not calling this a sign. It's strictly public art. So we already had spoke with the PDSD sign code expert, and she agreed that if it was as it is in this photo, that it would not be a sign. And given that it's in DTM right away, it is our jurisdiction. So it is, yeah, definitely public art. We would also figure out a way to attach the plaque provided by PAG to the signage to make sure that folks could, realize who did this beautiful art. When we were out there observing the conditions initially, we did see a car that was parked in the median. It'll be interesting to see if it actually generates some pedestrian traffic, but I do see that we did observe that median being used for various uses. But this will also help delineate the space of making sure that it is actually a median and not having cars parked there as well. Questions?
Any questions from the committee?
I had one question. So in median number 2, you had it at the location. I know you said you looked at site visibility, but with how high it is, just seems like it could potentially be a hazard blocking visibility.
Yeah, I think from the aerial view, it definitely looks smaller than it is. I could provide dimensions if you'd like. I shared that with the traffic engineer as a follow-up question, and he assured us that as long as we maintain that clear zone, that there would not be any visibility challenges, particularly since it would be placed diagonally.
Any other questions?
Yes, this is Mark Novak. With your panel and post design, has there been consideration for wind load?
That would be determined through the design. We did think about that, and I think given also the nature, the dimensions, that it's not exceeding 5 feet. I mean, we have signs out on the roadway with very similar dimensions. And that's also why we have, we're being flexible in terms of the width. There's a range, so 4 to 18 feet. But that's a good question, something we'll keep in mind.
Thank you.
I was gonna say with that 18-foot wide, that's a, you gotta definitely look at the window for that and maybe square to the channel, but
And the
I'm sure you got that under control.
Yeah, no, excellent observation. Also with that, you can see with this particular photo, the posts are not all placed parallel touching. So I would imagine that the wind could flow between signs because there's just depending on the placement. So we'll definitely keep that in mind.
That's something that we observed too. I'm sure you guys got that under control. Any other questions from the committee? Anybody online? I have a question. Those are some beautiful colors up at those signs. Was that done by young kids or was that the artist?
This I don't believe it was a Tabby project, Jessica Gonzalez.
Looks really
Yes.
professional.
Yes.
The other question, and it looks real nice. But the other question I have for you is that I know that we deal with signs all the time and with those kind of beautiful bright colors, they don't last for long, especially depending on the orientation of the sun, where it's oriented. You guys, you figure out how you guys are gonna maintain these signs? Because after a while, I'm sure they're gonna fade away. We just had some signs, somebody that walking through about beautiful colors and all that. They didn't last very long, depending on the space.
Right. Yeah, definitely. That's something that we would work with the artists to determine the colors. And Ariel, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Hi, everyone. The Arts Foundation recommends for artists who are creating public artwork that is exposed to the sun to use a special quality of paint that withstands the Arizona heat and sun. So that will be recommended to the artist to use, and there will be a anti-graffiti coating applied to it as well.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Thank you, Ms. Maria. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. With that, we conclude the 3 presentations for the Transportation FIU's 2024 application.
Thank you. This is an action item. We're looking for a recommendation.
Recommend them all as a group or one
I think
individual?
it's all as a group. So we wait till the very end. Unless if you guys have issues with one particular item or artwork. But now let's just go with the whole group. All three.
I move that all 3 Tabby projects be approved for funding.
Motion? Second?
Second.
And we have a second. Any questions? Comments? Hearing none, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, that leaves us moving on to item number 6. FY 2025, FY 2029 TIP development process update, including the preliminary draft TIP project. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, appreciate the opportunity to provide an update on the TIP process. Provide a brief review of a few of the TIP development principles that we covered in detail at the December meeting, but just a few not all slides. It's worth kind of reminding everybody that because of the current RTA plan expiring in 2026 and related funding considerations for RTA next, those are affecting this TIP development cycle, as you all know. And so in terms of project cost estimates for project costs intended solely for TIP program. And the cutoff date for updating these cost estimates was at the October subcommittee meeting. That snapshot of that cannot be so that we can move forward with other pieces. Revenue estimates still under cost estimates or update estimates are also a one-time snapshot, must remain constant financial constraint analysis. FY24 exclusion, FY24 will not be included. The exchange of funds during FY20 must be addressed separately through the process. Wanted to show you the anticipated schedule. Talk about that a little bit. I'll go into more detail on some of these items. Future. Oh. No, thank you. Yeah. So in terms of the anticipated schedule, let's just skip down to midway through this list, looking at February and March, where we have TPC review of the full draft tip project list. So we're here today. We also would like to request a special meeting of the TPC for Wednesday, March 6th. So this all just kind of came about recently as we realized that we're not giving TPC enough time to review the list and take action today. We just didn't have it ready. And so we want to have a special meeting on March 6th where we will be requesting action. So we will be following up via email on that. In March, we will be asking the management committee and regional council to review the full draft tip project list. We'll also be convening open houses for the tip in mid-March. I'll be talking about that in the slides. In April, that's when TPC will be asked to recommend approval of the full draft tip document. So this is the current full draft tip document, 22 through 26. And we will then commence a 30-day public comment period on the draft tip. And then in May, we will be asking management committee to recommend approval, followed by, in late May, a public hearing at the regional council meeting and a request for approval of the FY25 through 29 tip. So draft project list, as you can see, the screen captures on the right show the different formats that we receive these lists, or they're generated from different committees. So the Transit Working Group has its own format that it uses to track projects and funding and demonstrate fiscal constraint. ADOT has its own format. The TIP subcommittee used that colorful worksheet that last fall, the one you see at the top. So we've got a list of all the different project lists that are used to create the full draft project list. I've got this in my hand right here that we shared with you yesterday. So hopefully you all received an email yesterday from Sonia requesting review of the preliminary draft project list by the end of the day this Friday. That basically, again, takes the information from all of these 7 lists and puts them into the TIP database that shows, the projects, the funding sources, the phases, and the funding amounts. And then we're also hearing that it would be helpful for us to follow up and share the worksheet from December that was included in the regional council packet in last month's meeting. But we can follow up and share that with the TPC for comparison with this list. And if there are other project lists that you would like us to share, just let us know as well. TIP open houses. So some of you have been through this process before and recognize that we do request participation from member agencies with projects in the TIP. We often get questions about specific projects, and we defer to our member agencies, the project sponsors, to help with answer those questions. Sometimes the questions are actually not about anything in the TIP, but could be about other topics related to transportation. And so we do really appreciate your assistance. So you can see on the right, we have just confirmed as of yesterday, these 3 locations and the dates and times. So we've got Tuesday, March 19th, 3 to 5 at PAG. We want to have this as a virtual format. We have all the equipment here to hold a virtual meeting, and last TIP development cycle, it was very successful to use that remote option. So we want to make sure we provide folks the opportunity to tune in virtually. On Wednesday the 20th from 4 to 6 at Abrams Public Health Center, that will be in person only. And then Thursday, March 21st in Moran at the Wheeler Taft Abbott Senior Library. So this location was chosen for a variety of reasons, but one of the primary reasons is because that is in the Rito PM10 non-attainment area. And it's encouraged for that particular designation that we hold a public meeting or public open house in that location. It's not required, but we think it's a good practice. So that's why that location was chosen. It's also helps those in the northern part of our region have better access to an open house. So during the open houses, we're going to be providing an overview of the TIP development process. like I mentioned, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide feedback. In terms of the full draft tip document, the 30-day public comment period is an opportunity for the public to provide any feedback on that. So we'll be asking the members of the public at the open houses for feedback on the draft project list and the maps. Again, the comment period is a chance to provide feedback on the full document. And we will be following up via email with more information and requesting participation from our member agencies. And before, I guess I'll move to that question slide. So I do want to again say that we just received approval to hold a March 6th special TPC meeting. I know that's just a couple of weeks away, but we would like that to be an opportunity to request that the TPC take action on this project list. So we're requesting TPC review of the preliminary draft project list by end of the day on Friday, if at all possible, so that we can make any adjustments and update the list and send it out in time for that March 6th meeting. And that's again when we will be requesting action. We're also going to be taking the project list to the management committee and regional council. So with that, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Brown. There will be a change that you will notice on funding. You recall a few months ago, we went through the RTA audit process. One of the recommendations was that we highlight exactly which funds came from which jurisdiction. So for instance, if there's a local fund match that's used for the city of Tucson, that would be shown as TUS, or a local match for the town of Marana, it would be MAR. We've pretty much followed that program throughout for many years for Pima County, so I'm not sure you will notice a big change on the projects. But for the most part, the smaller towns and jurisdictions that change. But I can share that information with you.
You're just highlighting the local match or contribution?
Yeah, the local match or contribution, and it's also a means for us to track the funding that our member jurisdictions towards the project or utilize.
With that said, this is an information item, any questions from the committee? We're quiet. Anybody online? You guys there? Still there?
Yes, I had a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
This is Natalie Shepp. I'm just curious, a lot of these projects are federally funded. And so has there been any sort of analysis related to Justice 40 on the federally funded projects so that we can determine how those projects either positively or negatively impact disadvantaged communities? And that would be a question for PAG or any of the member jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Ms. Shepp, members of the committee. So part of the TIP development process is Title VI environmental justice analysis. So we do look to see, to compare the build versus no build options to see if that's going to disproportionately impact any of those protected populations covered by Title VI and environmental justice. And so our data science team has been working on the modeling and also the Title VI analysis. And we also have the GIS team that is developing maps showing the results of that analysis. So we will be documenting that and including that in the full draft tip for public comment. In terms of Justice 40, we are including, so Justice 40, as we understand, does not, the tip is not a covered activity of Justice 40. That said, programs like the Transportation Alternatives Program is a covered Justice 40 program. And so we do comply with the requirements of Justice 40 as we conduct the Regional Transportation Alternatives Grants process. And so those projects that you see that are RTAG funded in the tip are conducted in compliance with Justice 40. And I will look to see if anybody has anything else to add to that. I hope that answers your question. Any other? Thank you.
I just have one follow-up question. Is it coming from the Department of Transportation that the TIP doesn't need to comply with Justice 40 for the federally funded projects? Where are you pulling that information?
Yeah, thank you again. So we've been looking at USDOT materials in terms of Justice 40 to see which of the numerous programs are covered by Justice 40. And my understanding as we looked at it just recently, again, that the Transportation Alternatives Program and the CRP program are the only two that we're aware of that PAG is involved in. So that's our take on that. I don't know if ADOT, if you have any comments on that. No, looking at ADOT, our ADOT rep has no comments on that. Thank you.
Can you clarify that a little bit more? So the federal funding that's shown on the tip, the SCP versus the RTAG. So one of them do need to comply with the Justice 40 versus the other one? Because it's, how does that work?
So my understanding is that the Justice 40 initiative is embedded in different programs as part of the IIJA. So the IIJA made changes to the Transportation Alternatives Program, requiring that projects must identify high need areas as part of that process, which we've done through our competitive selection process. As we look at, again, the Justice 40 website, we do not see that the Transportation Improvement Program is called out specifically as a covered program. But then again, you know, any TA projects that are incorporated into the TIP must comply with Justice 40. Does that help?
Yeah, I just give it up a little bit.
And again, we do conduct the Title VI environmental justice analysis for the entire.
I know you guys do a lot of these analysis, Title VI, for the TIP, entire TIP. But I was talking about like the specific funding, for example, the STP funding versus the RTAG funding.
Right.
So they're a little different.
No, I've not seen that STBG is a covered funding source for
I guess
Justice 40, but PA is. Yes.
Any other questions, or did that answer the question?
It did, but I think this just reiterates why it's important that we actually talk about Justice 40 within this committee, because it's rather confusing and there are requirements. And I think it would be helpful if this committee collectively could discuss that. And frankly, I think that federally funded projects that are included in the TIP should be utilizing the tools that are now available by the USDOT, which is the Equitable Transportation Community Explorer tool. And that would be helpful if we could actually discuss this as I've requested numerous times, so that we can all be aware of what's required and that we are following the requirements of this, of Justice 40. So I just want to reiterate that I feel like this is a topic that really could stand on its own, and we could be discussing it in terms of how we are analyzing these federally funded projects moving forward.
Any other questions for me?
Question. I just started looking at the sheets that were sent out yesterday. Of course, I appreciate you sending the most recent worksheet from our December meeting so that we can kind of crosswalk with what we're looking at for the RTA roadway projects. I have a question on the overall work program elements that have federal funding. They don't align with the actual published overall work program. So you could help us understand the crosswalk between TIP ID and work element of the overall work program.
And just to piggyback on that, I think you mentioned that the CRP funding is a requirement for Justice 40. So I also noticed that the OWP funded elements do not explicitly call out that CRP funding. So considering, adherence with Justice 40, it might be a good practice to transition to that so that we can get a clearer demonstration of how those CRP funded activities are in compliance with Justice 40.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'm wondering if it would be best if those comments are added to the worksheet that we can then follow up with you in writing, because that way we can have a coordinated internal response. I have some thoughts, but I think it would be best if we provide a unified response. Is that okay?
Sure, I'll put them on.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
And those comments are good this Friday?
Yes. Please. Thank you.
And will the responses be provided to the full group or just to the agency that provides comments? What's the intent for the comment sheets and public sharing of those comments?
I would like to request that we all see each other's comments and responses. I think that would help us all.
I agree.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just to add on to Natalie's comments, in looking into Justice 40, intent and spirit, I don't think that Pima County DOT is necessarily where we would ultimately like to be in incorporating the intent of Justice 40 in that my understanding is that Justice 40 intends for the consideration of impacts before projects are selected and then move forward. And we're doing some of that, but it's perhaps something that could be a little bit more standardized and formalized in the selection and identification of projects. So I can say that from the jurisdictional side, we're doing okay, but I think we can do better for sure. And then I think there's value to taking a look at the entire TIP package and understanding what those impacts are. In the history of having seen, dozens of Title VI analyses from TIPs, I've never been made aware of any variation in the travel time impacts of any particular community group. So I think it might be good at the right point in time to kind of review the practice so that we can figure out, is it aligning with the spirit of what what Justice 40 is intending to do, in that you consider the impacts of your project selection before you go through project selection or a TIP or a long-range plan or a jurisdictional set of projects. Like I said, I think we're doing okay from a jurisdictional perspective, but I would personally like to see us kind of formalize that a little bit better. And it would be tremendously helpful for us to understand how other jurisdictions, both locally and nationally, are stepping through that process. We just haven't quite gotten out from under all of the other things that are piling on in order to kind of poke our head up and figure out how to get to the best practice piece. So I think there's plenty of opportunity for improvement here, both on the regional front and the individual jurisdictional front. And I would hope that we would embrace that.
Yeah, go ahead,
If I may, Mr. Chair, thank you. And thank you for that comment, Mr. Casertano. It might be worth noting that the focus of this TIP development process has been on funding the RTA roadway element projects that were approved by the voters in 2006, far predating Justice 40. So there hasn't been really an open call for projects as part of this TIP development process other than for transit investments. An exception would be through a totally different process, the RTAG process, which again followed Justice 40. So we don't really have new projects to use that screening tool for Justice 40. That said, when we get to that point in time, that's a really good comment for us to consider using tools, EJ40 tools, not EJ40, Justice 40 tools for any sort of project screening approach.
Sure, thank you.
Now might be the perfect time. I recall when performance measure requirements came down, we were kind of in a similar situation in that PAG and RTA did not necessarily have new projects, but we demonstrated that we could push performance data to understand the impacts of projects on existing condition performance. So maybe something similar could be exercised with Justice 40 to get us a little closer.
Yeah. And that's something that we look into very near future. Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Anybody online? Any questions? Yeah, this is an informational item.
Oh, hey, so, Jose, this is Rita Centran. Jamie kind of referenced it, but I did want to mention that all of our most recent federal grants on the transit side have all required us to answer a question, at least one question regarding Justice 40. I don't know if other federal grants are also starting to incorporate it, but I do know that it's already been incorporated in everything that we do transit that's federally related. So just something else for you guys to think about as you move forward.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Yeah, again, this is an informational item. Here none, let's move on to item number 7. Regional transportation revenues update. Mr. Brown, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. So we'll keep this one brief. This one is an unusual report in that we do not have updated PERF 12.6 and 2.6 information. Our understanding in coordination with ADOT finance staff is that there was an update to the statewide accounting system, and that affected the reporting that ADOT uses for those 2 regional funding sources. So we went ahead and did update the report as best we could, but we did put at the very top a note that this does exclude November and December information. And as soon as we have that information for the next full TPC meeting, we'll make sure to include that. So in terms of any updates, Table 7 does include updated city and town HERF distribution information through December. So we've included that. We also included the RTA revenue actuals. So you can see in Table 11 that through January that the revenues are just over $70 million, and that's about a 4% increase as compared to the FY24 adopted budget, and for about a 4% increase as compared to FY23. We also did update the gasoline sales for Pima County FY24. Gasoline gallons year to date are just shy of 13%, which is usually what we look to see to make sure that we're consistent. And if we do see any errors in the reporting, we'll make sure to update that information. So at the next full TPC meeting, we hope to have those updated PERF 12.6 and 2.6 numbers for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions from the committee? It is an informational item, so here none, we'll move on to item number 8. Digital mobility and accessibility plan, it's known as RMAP update. So Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. My name is Hannah Oden. I'm the planning coordinator with PAG, and I'm just going to provide a brief update on the 2055 Regional Mobility and Accessibility Plan, or the RMAP, currently under development. So just as a reminder, it covers our regional transportation investments in our region over a 30-year period, and is the federally required long-range plan that is updated every 4 years. So the RMAP must satisfy the federal requirements for long-range transportation planning. So the fiscal constraint is a key component of the long-range plan. Early projections show that the anticipated fiscal constraint for the RMAP is approximately $16.2 billion. This will be refined as needed as we move forward with the plan development process. So there have been 2 RMAP working group meetings that have been held so far. So the first was held in November, and the second was held last month on January 16th. The next meeting is actually scheduled in a virtual format next week on Thursday, the 29th at 9 a.m. So far discussion has focused on evaluating performance measures and providing guidance on the 2055 targets and discussing the project list. We continue to work with and receive feedback from our jurisdictional members to refine the project list and receive feedback on specific projects and PAG staff recommendations. Once the RTA Next project list is adopted by the RTA board, that information will be incorporated into the 2055 RMAP project list. The ongoing effort is to continue to align the project list with the fiscal constraint. At the meeting next week, we will be discussing projects with committed funding, additional PAG staff recommendations. We will be sending the working group members information in advance of the meeting for review. All projects are in the RMAP Project Explorer, where jurisdictional partners can export project lists and view project details, including performance reports. The details for the projects can, of course, be updated as needed. Just as a reminder, the RMAP and RTA Next public outreach efforts will be coordinated. So this concludes my update. I'm happy to answer any questions. Mr. Red may have additional details to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Committee?
One question. At the tail end, you said the RMAP and the what outreach will be coordinated?
The RTA Next outreach.
Any other questions?
And Hannah, did you say that you're gonna look to revise the fiscal constraint number as you move forward at the beginning, or did I catch that wrong? Are you set on the 16.2, or are you gonna look at that more closely at a later time?
Yeah, so currently, that's the early projection, so that is subject to some change potentially. Is my understanding, Mr. Ram, if you have anything to add to that, but yeah, there could be some adjustments to
I
that
get the
number.
routine. And then we have still to squeeze like what, 12 billion or so out of the list of what's targeted as in plan at this point that needs to move to the on deck.
Or not still financially constrained?
So it's a big task ahead of us. So I think, you know, the earlier we know if 16.2 is going to be 18 or something like that, that might be. So I don't know what your schedule looks like.
Well, what's going to help out too is that we know what's going to happen with the RTA Next.
For sure.
Any other questions? Anybody online? Any questions? This is an informational item, so hearing no other questions or comments, let's move on to item number 9. Future agenda items.
I know we have a series of agenda items that have been discussed in previous meetings that haven't made it to an agenda. Do you, PAG staff, have a list of those so that we know what's kind of in the queue, or should we try to repeat them here? Last time we had a long discussion about the greenhouse gas item, and I think there was some anticipation that it would make it on this agenda based on that conversation, which it did not. So I'm just.
Do you have the status on that, Mr. Brown, or anybody?
Mr. Chair, we do have a running list of all the ones that were reflected, the ones that are in meeting minutes for the past several meetings. Yeah, we have.
We're still working on.
Yeah, they'll come up with.
We're in progress.
And I briefly on the GHG performance measure, that's going to go through AQS, EPAC, and then to this committee. So it'll be on those agendas.
Okay. I know I have on my list Justice 40. We had talked about having grants as a standing item on how we can work together as a region on some of these federal grants. So we bring the most money possible to this region by working cooperatively, collectively. The greenhouse gas that Jeanette just mentioned. The last regional council meeting approved a contract for the alternative transportation plan. I think that's going to be an important one that this group is updated on. Plus, I believe we should be assigning staff to that effort based on that contract. And then the dynamic traffic assignment contract was also approved at the last regional council, which is going to be impactful to our work in the world. So those are my 5 items.
Can we take a look at those items, see if they're ready to brought to the group?
And I think it's already on your list. Sorry, Mr. Chair. But I think there's been some recent, you know, moving the ball forward with pavement activities as well. So figuring out how that timing comes back into TPC. I think there was a meeting that Lance just held yesterday and talked that through with the practitioners. So.
Yeah, asking an update on that.
Yeah, I think, you know, at the right time, whenever it's appropriate.
When they're ready, yeah, just want to put in the queue and whenever you guys really get it ready to go. Thanks. Any other questions? Well, not questions, any items you guys want? Yeah, everything's pretty quiet, so that gives me the, I think we are ready to adjourn. That moves us to item number 10, adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We are officially adjourned. Thank you.